Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today on electric yard care. We're going to be talking about how you can ditch the gas. My name is Brian Stewart. I'm co-founder of Electrify Now, and I'll be introducing our panelist, Yuri Ramirez from Clean Air Lawn Care in just a few minutes. Electrify Now is an all-volunteer organization that's promoting electrification as the quickest path to decarbonization. It's something that all of us can do in our own homes to reduce air pollution and carbon pollution. This webinar is produced in conjunction with San Diego Learn. It's a workforce education and training program that's partnered with Electrify Now to offer free energy efficiency and electrification webinars. You can find out more about San Diego Learn online at their website, sandiegolearn.com. Okay, so today, this webinar is part of our series called Go Electric. It's all about the benefits to homeowners for embracing electrification in our homes, and those benefits include lower energy bills, cleaner indoor air, more comfort and safety, lower air pollution and carbon pollution. We'll be talking a lot about that today. Okay, so why are we talking about lawn care most of the time, or yard care? Most people are thinking about, water heaters and furnaces and things like that. But the shocking truth is that because there's so many gas-powered tools in the United States, over 650 million of them that are being used today, that consumes over 1.2 billion gallons of gasoline just for mowing our lawns, nothing else. That doesn't even include blowers and trimmers and those sorts of things. When you include all of these devices, this sector of gas-powered equipment creates over 350 million tons of carbon pollution every year. That's equivalent to 5 million cars. So this is not insignificant in terms of something to get after to clean up our air and our reduce carbon pollution. And from an air pollution standpoint, the picture is even worse. It's because these small gas engines that drive these gas-powered tools do not have the pollution controls that automobiles do. So they're now a leading source of air pollution, particularly in our cities. It's equivalent to over 100 million cars in terms of the air pollution from fine particulates, that's PM 2.5, nitrogen, NOx pollution, benzene, formaldehyde, all these nasty pollutants that are linked to cancer, asthma, heart disease, lung disease, even dementia. Really staggering how much pollution is produced by these small devices. CARB, the California Air Resource Board, says that 1 hour using a gas-powered leaf blower is equivalent to driving 1,100 miles in a car. So this is why these things are dangerous and polluting. And if you're one of the folks, like we were in the same situation where we had a gas-powered lawn care service that would come and take care of our yard once a week. And that visit ranges from a half hour to an hour, depending on the size of your yard, can produce as much air pollution as if you had a car revving its engine in your driveway for 10 hours. Most people wouldn't even contemplate doing that, yet that's what happens every time these yard services visit our homes. This is why, all these reasons is why California, particularly from the air pollution standpoint, has banned the sale of these small gas engines, these engines that drive leaf blowers and lawnmowers and string trimmers. It's not possible to purchase those or sell those in California starting earlier this year. And that's fantastic that you can still use them in California, but you can't sell them. These tools also produce unbelievable loud noise, dangerous levels of noise that can cause permanent hearing damage. This is the decibel scale for noise, and what humans perceive a doubling in loudness for every 10 decibels of noise. So anything under 70 dB decibels is considered safe, that you can't really hurt your ears under 70, but over that it becomes loud, and over 85, permanent hearing loss can happen in minutes. All these gas-powered tools that we're talking about in this category produce dangerous levels, some of them as high as 110 dBA. So unless you're wearing really good ear protection, you're really putting yourself at serious risk for permanent hearing loss, and it's also dangerous to the public. This is why over 100 cities in the United States have banned or restricted the use of gas leaf blowers, which are one of the loudest tools that are out there. Okay, then the other problem, of course, is solid toxic waste that sometimes doesn't get considered. But if you think about it, every time you fill up one of these tools with gas, you're likely to spill some on the ground. You have to mix oil into the gasoline because most of these tools are two-stroke engines. That means there's thousands or millions of these oil cans that are disposed every year. They have air filters and gas filters that need to be replaced in order to keep them operating. All that toxic waste goes to landfill. That you're talking about millions of pounds of this debris, this toxic debris sent to landfill every year. All right, let's talk about battery tools and why they're so much better. They don't have any of those problems we just talked about. They're as powerful as gas. We'll hear about that, more about that in a minute. They start instantly with a touch of a button. You don't have to pull any cords. You don't have to refuel them or tune them up, which is a completely painful process. If you've owned one of these tools and you don't use it for a while, getting it started can be a chore. They don't produce any air pollution. They're dramatically quieter and very low, very, very low carbon emissions. They can be zero carbon emissions if you are using clean energy in your home. Let's start with this power and durability question, which is, I think, one of the things that maybe people are a little worried about switching away from gas-powered tools. But this is a quote from Steel. They're the #1 commercial power tool supplier in the United States. Most of the commercial operators you see, or a lot of them, use Steel tools. And they say on their website, battery tools have the power to get the job done on a single charge and to do it as well as gas-powered products. So this is one of the leading manufacturers of gas-powered tools that's just telling you how good electric tools are. And of course, they make really good electric tools as well. Pro Tool Review, which is one of my go-to resources for getting good information about tools and really in-depth reviews. They say the best battery-powered electric lawnmowers now have legit gas replacement performance, better runtime, and more innovative features than any lawnmower available a few years ago. And then Consumer Reports says that battery trimmers and leaf blowers are more reliable than gas ones. So the point is that there's more and more reason to be confident these tools have the power you need and the durability. And we'll be talking to our panelists about that in more detail in just a minute. And then, of course, from the sound standpoint, all these battery-powered tools that we'll be talking about operate at 70 dB or below. So none of them are in this dangerous space. You should still use air protection because you don't want to be ever be subjecting yourself to loud noises if you can help it. But they're not in this super dangerous level of noise. And they're very attractive from an operating cost standpoint. I love this little calculator from Consumer Reports. You can adjust how many minutes it takes you to mow your lawn, and then what the cost of gasoline is in your area. And it will tell you what the break-even point is for a new electric lawnmower, because typically they're more expensive when you include the batteries you need than a gas mower when you purchase it up front. But because the fuel is dramatically lower and maintenance expenses are virtually zero, you will see that you're going to get a break-even point that's typically around somewhere between 1.5 and 2 years. And then, of course, after that, you're saving yourself money. And then let's talk about carbon emissions. From a gas-powered tool standpoint, a typical handheld gas leaf blower is going to produce about 5 pounds of carbon dioxide for every hour of use. Compare that to 0.5 for an electric leaf blower, so less than 1/10 of the carbon emissions. And it's even more dramatic on the lawnmower side because the engines for lawnmowers are larger and they produce more pollution and more carbon dioxide pollution. So you can see that it's dramatically lower using electric tools. And this is just with standard average electricity, carbon intensity of electricity in the United States. If you've got clean power in your area, or if you've got community solar, or if you've got solar panels on your roof, these numbers on the right would be zero. So that's where we're headed as the electric grid gets cleaner, that electric tools will produce fewer and fewer carbon emissions every year. Okay, let's talk about brands for a minute and the products that are out there. Nearly every manufacturer of gas-powered tool is now making electric tools. They see that electric tools are the future. And so some of the gas-powered leaders are also making really good electric tools, but there are also these brands that have popped up that have focused 100% on electric tools, like Ego is one of those, Cobalt, Greenworks. These brands, they don't produce gas-powered tools. The three on the left, Ego, Steel, and Makita, I'm just highlighting, not necessarily that they're better for you, but they're also have this AGSA certification. AGSA is a nonprofit located in California that does a lot of robust testing with gas-powered tools and, electric tools to certify them for commercial use, because they're all about transitioning commercial operations to electric. And so they want to make sure that these products are going to stand up to the abuse of commercial landscape operations, which is not so much of a concern for most of us homeowners, but I'm just pointing this out because that's a pretty high bar to pass, that these tools are going to take that day-to-day beating that happens in commercial landscape operations. These other tools are also provide really good products. They get excellent reviews from places like Consumer Reports and other tool reviewers. You can see that they're readily available at all the big hardware outlets across the United States. And there's other options from other places, but these are the ones that are generally get really good reviews and are easy to find. All right, so let's talk about tips for buying a battery electric tools. I like to recommend people that, okay, you're going to start probably, I don't know, maybe you're going to buy a whole suite of tools, but you might just buy one to start. Pick the tool that you use the most, or maybe you've got a tool that needs to be replaced in your quiver of tools. Start there, do your research. I think Consumer Reports is a great place to start because they do a lot of really in-depth testing. Pro Tool Review that I've mentioned already is a really good resource for getting good information about tools. Find out what's out there, which are the best rated ones. Make sure you go with a brand that has a big offering of tools, though, because maybe you're just buying one tool now, but ultimately you want to share batteries. You want to use the same brand for all your tools. If you can do that, because that means you can use the same batteries in each of your tools, and will save you a lot of money on batteries and also make it a lot more convenient when you're switching from one to the other. Then, you're going to need probably a couple batteries if you've got multiple tools. I like to recommend that you get a range of sizes, because, for example, if you've got a relatively large yard in an electric lawnmower, you want a big battery so you don't have to keep swapping it out. But if you're just doing a little like touch-up, cleanup, maybe with your leaf blower, then having a small battery that won't last as long, but you don't need to, but it's lightweight. So that comes in really handy. I like to recommend people get a mix of them. I also like to recommend that you buy batteries from the brand that makes the tool. Don't buy no brand, off brand, like the no brand options. I highly recommend you buy the branded ones. And because the quality of the battery is important, the warranties that come with those batteries is generally better with the branded ones. And and they're also safer because you want to make sure you're getting a quality battery. And then the last thing I'd recommend is just keep these things plugged in all the time. You never want to have your battery just sitting around. Even in the winter when you're not using these tools, keep them plugged in. There's lots of options from these, really lower cost ones for a single battery to you can find chargers that'll charge multiple batteries at once. And even things like Ego offers this kind of like a generator type thing where you can plug all your batteries in to charge, but it also operates as a generator if you ever need more power for some other reason, power outage or something like that. All right, so enough from me. I want to hear from our guest panelists today. I'm excited to have Yuri Ramirez here. He's the owner of Clean Air Lawn Care, and he's going to tell you more about Clean Air Lawn Care in a minute, but it's a multi-state network of professional lawn care services that's dedicated to organic and emissions-free all-electric yard care. Yuri has an amazing background, which we'll hear more about in engineering and operations management, but he's using that background to deliver really premium lawn care services for his residential clients. Okay, welcome, Yuri, and thank you for joining us today. Oh, maybe before we get started, I just want to remind everyone, if you have questions that you'd like Yuri or I to answer, please put them in the Q&A. We'll do our best to answer those questions course, we'll be sending out links to a lot of the things we're talking about today, including the recording and the presentation later, but we'll try our best to answer your questions. Okay, Yuri, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about Clean Air Lawn Care? What's this company all about?
Yeah, so Clean Air Lawn Care, it's a franchise. So they have about 60 locations in the United States. It was started by Kel Giard in Colorado, just with a lawnmower, just thinking that, hey, I want to be environmentally friendly, and I'm just getting a lawnmower with a battery. And then that turned into the franchise. I got into it after looking at different companies and figuring out which one to buy into. I consider also doing something on my own or doing it on my own versus a franchise. But in my case, I did the analysis. I like this direction, and I really liked what the company stand for. I like the support. And we're here in Portland. It's very environmental. It's very, again, focused on sustainability. So I think business wise also was a good niche. In terms of doing the right thing, it was also a good niche. But just as with the electric, again, the wheel needs to meet the cost in a way, right? To make it feasible. And I think we are at that point. I think that I enjoy working outside. I work at Intel Corporation for 17 years. And I mean did a lot of project management, a lot of executive work there. And this is something very different. But I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy the education. I enjoy the research. And again, my focus is a little bit bringing a little bit more of that technology focus and customer focus to this industry that I think for many years has been basically seen as a labor industry. I want to actually change that. I want to make this a customer first, where the type of trust that people have in us is the type of trust that they have in Costco when they buy something and they know they can return it
Yeah.
2 years after.
Yeah.
We want to make sure people have that same level of trust in this service.
That's great. All right. Well, let's tell us about your experience with electric tools and compared to gas, and how you think about the advantages, and are there disadvantages that you found, or tell us your experience.
Yeah, I would say I started very transparently, right? I started kind of skeptical. And I've used gas tools forever at my home. I think that I started using electric tools with power cord. So I saw a question like that. Again, the cost is a lot more affordable, and they were good. I mean, the power was good, and ironically, the thing I enjoyed the most about it was that I could make them start versus my frustration of not being able to make a start a tool that has not been used for a year. I never could make it start. This, you just plug in, stops. It's cleaner. You put it in the shed. It's lighter. I really enjoy that. When starting a business, then I had to do a little bit more research, and many of these concerns of power, durability, the cost of the batteries were very of concern for me, right? I'm also I want a profitable business other than doing the right thing too, right? So I went through all that analysis. You can tell that after 2 to 3 years, things begun. They are kind of net positive, right? And you start kind of making money after that in terms of, again, the cost of gas, the cost of versus the cost of electricity. So long term, definitely 100%. I was super convinced this was the right path. However, there is an initial cost, and I had to figure out, am I going to do that, right? Versus the initial cost of the gas. What I ended up doing was, I knew this was the long-term solution. I actually bought used equipment to start, mostly in the marketplace. I look for things that were new, but at least 50 to 60%. And there is a lot of good opportunity in the marketplace, Facebook, to get that type of equipment, right? Things that
Yeah, that's
that
really interesting. Yuri, sorry to interrupt, but I mean, because I hadn't really thought about that before, but you know, the thing that tends to be, if something's going to wear out in one of these tools, it's most likely going to be the battery. I would assume, you know, these tools they're going to run for years and years and years, most likely. So you get a used tool, and let's say the battery's not in good shape because the owner didn't take care of it or something like that, and you have to buy a new battery, but you got a tool at very low cost, and you can try it
You
out,
know,
I guess, right?
ironically, what's happening is that the batteries, the price again, this is an emerging market, so it hasn't stabilized yet. So sometimes it's cheaper to buy the battery and the equipment than the battery itself. So
Right.
what you see in the marketplace a lot of times is that they are selling you the equipment without the battery. And that's how I started testing it. So that's the other thing. I wanted to test what equipment will be better for my business. And I don't want to spend a lot of money buying new equipment, testing, deciding, and then buying more of that. I wanted to test it. But again, I try to find the balance between I'm not looking for the cheaper in the marketplace. A lot of times are people that, hey, I'm selling this, I use it 2 times, I'm moving. So that's one target for me. Okay, so this is a relatively new machine that someone is selling. I'm willing to test it out. If
Gotcha.
it is something that's, I mean, 10 years old, I wouldn't be testing it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's,
yeah, I
yeah.
agree because I mean these tools have improved a lot. Even just in, you know, I
Mhm.
started. I think the first electric battery tool I bought was maybe 5 years ago, and I'd say the new ones are just better. You know,
Yeah.
and the batteries are better too. So do you have what kind of brands do you have experience with your business?
I inherited from purchasing the business, I inherited a lot of cobalt. And I wanted to try Eagle because I had heard a lot of positive things on that. So I have both. I've been very happy with both, actually. Um, Cobalt is a little bit more of a budget brand from Lowe's, but it's still pretty good. And now Ego is actually very powerful. It's 56 volts instead of 40. But sometimes that's a little too much, right? But even in with the weed whacker, it's sometimes it's better to have less power to do more precision. So I liking the Cobalt a lot more for now. Um, and um, and then I think that yeah, I really like the Cobalt. I have Ryobi also, but I'm those are the two. Now, steel is by far, I think, what a lot of professionals really recommend. They are really good in the gas industry and really good now in this. They are a little pricier, but I've heard, I mean, it's a good trade-off between quality and price. I will look at that also. But one of the things to what you mentioned, right? There is so much positive of being able to swap batteries, right? That you almost want to pick one and stick with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And again, for the regular homeowner, if you're doing this work yourself, I really like Cobalt as a best value and best weight and best longevity for the batteries.
Well, let's talk about weight for a
Um,
minute because do you find how do you find these electric tools compared to gas in terms of weight and just generally ease of use, but
yeah, again, my number one thing I mentioned is being able to get them to start, right? Because that's the functionality. The second one is the weight. The weight is it's a lot lighter, a lot easier to handle, particularly things that you have to hold. I did a lot of research and a lot of soul searching in terms of the gas and emissions, right? I mean, you smell the gas, and I just started thinking, man, I mean, this is for me doing 1 yard here and there. This is just so unfair to the people that are, I mean, to the workers that are just operating this day to day. So
yeah.
I think that for me, that was a deal breaker that even if I had, I mean, if it were more money, again, I'm thinking long term, so it's less money. But even if I were thinking short term, it's difficult for me to bring the culture of positivity and employee first if I'm doing it that way, right? With
No,
emissions.
you're right. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, Yuri. I mean, it's really kind of outrageous, because often these are very, low paid jobs. So these people probably don't have a lot of the, you know, healthcare benefits that you might have if you're working at a big company, and you're being subjected to this just daily barrage of pollutants, and they're right in your face. I mean, it's one thing for us, even as a homeowner, you smell it, and you
Mhm.
you get for a short period you're experiencing this, but those workers are experiencing that every day up close. But thank you for bringing that up. I think this is
And part of our goal is also to educate the workers and all that too. I mean, and you mentioned the pay. I tell people that I pay my guys about 25% above market. And that is, I tell them, I'm paying you more because I expect more, right? You're not you're not labor, you're customer service who happens to be doing this type of work, right? And that's how I want to treat people, and be able to talk about the different equipment and all that. So, and also, again, we are a niche right now. I think that an employee feels good with the company, feels good with what we're doing. They probably don't want to go back to gas operated equipment after they feel like this. And
I would
the one thing that I say it's a kind of a misconception is the power behind them. I think they are very powerful, particularly again, the 56 volts is more power than what I need or what I want almost. I mean, it's almost too much. Now we may get in situations when the leaves are wet and all that, and at those times, yeah, you need that power, right? But I don't think in the 90% of the time you're very good in terms of power for what you really need.
yeah. Okay. So, and then what do you find in terms of runtime? I know runtime in batteries is a complicated thing because it depends on how big your batteries are and blah blah, and how whether you're using on full speed or part speed. But talk a little bit about runtime and how you deal with that, because for most homeowners that's not going to be a problem, because
Yeah.
you can charge your batteries, blah blah blah, but you've got to do multiple jobs during a day. How do you think about this runtime question?
So if you so it's again a trade-off, right? You just buy more batteries, but batteries cost more money. So there is a place where you can have enough batteries. We have great relationship with our customers. Sometimes we have an hour job and we have permission from the customer to just plug in for the battery, right? So we may be charging while we're working. That way you take advantage, and maybe you need one less battery.
Yeah.
But for the most
That
part,
probably, by the way, just for you folks out there, that probably costs the homeowner like less than 50 cents worth
yeah.
of electricity. It's like virtually nothing. So it's
Yes,
not,
yes.
there's no like financial penalty that you're imposing on the homeowner by doing that. But I just wanted to
Yeah,
interject.
and also we do it, we give a credit for that, and we give a credit for being able to use the debris bins for the
Nice.
customers, right? So it's all about, hey, it's just convenience. This is a way to say thanks, but it's not so much about the money, right? Because
Yeah.
it's um but I find that the batteries, you mentioned something important. Ideally you think, okay, I want a big battery, 12 ah, so that I don't have to change it, but that's heavier. So for example, for leaf blowers, for hedgers, it's not good. I'd rather have a smaller battery or a medium battery, and then swap it. Also, what I'm finding, and I have to do more research about this because I want to see if what I'm seeing it aligns with the industry, is that the battery conservation in the for the medium one and smaller ones is actually better than for the big ones.
Oh, really?
So I think that in my choice right now, I'm buying two fives instead of 110
Oh, really?
because the price is about the same, and I think the battery degradation is less. Again, I have to confirm that with see what the
Well, that's
research says,
interesting.
but that
I
has
mean,
been my experience.
the other thing that I've realized in just using it myself is that it almost works, not quite, but it almost works. If you've got let's say you've got two 5 amp hour batteries, which is kind of a medium sized battery, um, you can be using one and the other one's being charged.
Mhm.
And depending on what you're doing, by the time you depleted one. The other one is almost charged. I mean, it's not quite. I think with 3 batteries for sure, that's the case. That you can rotate them and you will never run out of batteries because you'll always have one that's fully charged. 2 is a little bit on the edge, but is that what you find?
Yeah, and again, when you have the same type of tools and the same batteries, it's great, right? Because you're charging two while you're using two, or the other thing, we have some trucks where we can just charge while the truck is running.
Mhm.
Many of the clean air trucks have solar panels, so they charge a battery and then you plug it in while you're running also,
That's nice.
and you recharge that way. So there are ways to keep the batteries, and we find, it's pretty consistent through the year, right? Sometimes you need more, sometimes you need less, but it's pretty consistent. So we have, I don't know, maybe for a crew, I may have 6 batteries for all the equipment,
Oh, really?
of medium batteries. So, I mean, if you buy everything new, right? I mean, it may be a price tag of, okay, $600 or something like that, but the way we have done it, it's less. And now that we have that working again, long term, it just saves so much, particularly with the cost of gas.
Do
And
you have
yeah,
a way you think about that savings, like in terms of operating costs from, I know I showed that calculator thing, but is that
yeah,
makes,
I ran the numbers and it's pretty even with either all the different brands. It's pretty consistently that in the 2.5 year mark, you kind of start making money. So I'm just thinking, with all these batteries, 2.5 years, and I'm making money for as much as they last, which I'm expecting it to be 5 years. So for me, I'm not even looking at so much as a cost. I'm looking at more as an upfront
yeah.
investment.
So what is your experience in terms of how long the batteries last?
Well, I just started doing this not too long ago, about 6 months. So I have not been through the whole cycle. The previous owner had done this for almost 15 years, and he says that it started at about 3 years, then now it's a little bit more consistently in the 5 years. He has some batteries that are 8 years old. So I think there is a little bit of inconsistency in the
Yeah.
market
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
But some people have batteries that are not very good. However, I have found that most of these batteries have a 5 year warranty, right? And I have called even with purchases that I have made off market, right? And I have been able to get some batteries replaced by the manufacturer, Ego in this case. And they, even without proof of purchase, right? I said, hey, I don't know where I have put the receipts, and I just have the battery. This is the serial number. They put it in and they send me a new one, and I send
Wow.
the one back. Um, and
That's
I
interesting.
haven't.
So because I wanted to ask you about battery recycling or what you do when you have batteries that are no longer working. Um, it,
Yeah, I that's something that we're figuring out. I think that first, obviously, that the rule, don't throw it in the trash. You don't do that even with alkaline batteries, right? There are some places that charge for recycling it. I've been just holding them. I have two that I do are not working, and that I haven't been have to have replaced. And for those, I'm just holding until I have a little time to figure out research that I'm hoping to just be able to recycle them for free. But I just have them in stored, and I don't really have a hurry for it. But again, it doesn't happen. I probably have, I don't know, 20 batteries out there and have only two that are kind of not working.
I mean, I did a little research on that. I haven't used this website, but I came across this really handy website where you put in your zip code and then it will show you all the places. It's called, by the way, Call to Recycle. I think we'll put the link in the chat. Um,
Nice.
but it'll show you all the places in your area nearby where you can drop the batteries off. So you can take
Okay.
them there and they will accept them for recycling, which is fantastic. Because a lot of people, I think, have concerns about battery recycling, which is legit. So this
Yep.
is a great resource.
That's
And then
great.
I also found this other one. called Battery Recyclers of America. This is a different, this will cost you money, but if that first thing doesn't work, there's nobody nearby, you can order one of these things like a medium-sized bucket. It'll cost you $129. They'll send you this bucket in the mail. You put your batteries in, send it back to them, no postage, all the postage is included in that price. And no matter where you are, it will, accept those batteries for recycling. So that's just, wanted to share those two resources for battery recycling. I know that's a concern for some people. Okay. So, I know we're getting close on time here. Do you have, any other, let's see, let's check the Q&A here to see if there's any questions that have come up that we haven't answered. I guess some of them.
I would say that, for the people, and I don't know what demographic of people we have, right? Because we have people that are really pro environment. And it's like, yes, we are already in that. I mean, using everything electric. There may be people that are kind of questioning it or trying to find the right answer. And I'm here to say it's perfectly okay to be going. That's exactly what you should be doing. You should be going through education, be going through the numbers, figuring out people that are doing it, asking them, figuring out people that decided not to do it, asking them. And I think where I'm at, I think this is the future, right? It will just continue to go that way because the benefits outweigh the negatives. The big thing and the tilting has been the cost. Now it's somewhat affordable. Still, there is a barrier to entry. And when I testify in for the hearings, I was concerned about the very small owner that doesn't have a lot of resources, right? How would a ban impact them now that they have to, dispose of their own gas equipment and now buy new equipment? Would that be unfeasible for them and then therefore put them out of business? So for me, and again, particularly thinking of not the big companies, but the minority owners and things like that, that the Joe Smith or the Jose's that have their truck and they are doing that type of work. So, but I think that there are some programs that are looking into that, and I think that it's important to take into account.
I think it's like that story is true everywhere you look in the terms of this transition away from gas-powered fossil fuels for everything to new electric stuff. Is there's an upfront cost. So incentives really help. I wish there were more like federal incentives for lawn tools would be really good. There's one last question I want to address here, and it's about this question of batteries bursting into flames. I think there was some widely publicized stories about e-bikes and problems with e-bikes. This is one of the reasons why you heard me say buy batteries from the name brands, not from no name brands. A lot of those e-bike problems that you hear about were not from the big companies that make really high quality products. They're from a lot of these little startups and no name brands that are making cheaper stuff that you can buy on Instagram or on the internet, stuff like that. I'd say avoid that stuff because that's where you're going to run into problems. If you have batteries that are not made in really optimal manufacturing situations where they're really paying attention to what they're doing, you can have problems. Maybe not burst into flame, but most likely isn't going to be as durable. So I'd say stick with the branded products. You're very unlikely to have problems with your batteries, either from a durability or a safety standpoint.
Definitely. I read about that. It happens with a lot of the batteries. Again, the cheaper battery replacements. I have to be honest. I wanted to try them. Right. I bought one. You can tell just in the manufacturing and just grabbing them. It's just like, I'm not going to put people at risk just to save, $50 on a battery.
Yeah.
I think that it may be tempting to do it, right? But at the same time, it's just, these things happen when they are unstable and they may pop in the floor or something like that, right? So things are going to move more into a different type of battery where the heating and the movement is not so much of an issue. But even now, I rather buy a brand use one than a new non-brand.
Yeah. Well, great. I think that's probably a good place to wrap things up. Yuri, thanks so much for joining us today. You've been
Yeah,
a really
I'm happy to. I see that there are quite a few questions, right? I don't know if they are addressed to me or to you, but I'm happy you sharing my email and 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 my information, right? If people have questions, right? I know this is not only Portland. I'm not trying to just do a sales pitch here. I'm happy to just answer questions, right? And I even sharing my journey of being kind of the research, what I did, and the people I talked. I think that having curiosity is the main thing, and trying to find the right answer, right? There are people that, in terms of yeah. So, I mean, in terms of, there are people that are sold already, regardless of the cost, right? I'm saying that the people conscious with cost, that's okay too. I mean, it's a balance, and people have to make their own decisions, but it is getting to a point where the economic barriers are a lot less.
Yeah.
And again, in my experience, 2.5 years when I run the numbers is what takes for you to go from, I mean, from negative to positive.
Well, thanks so much, Yuri. That was really helpful. And thank you all to our audience for tuning in today. And hopefully we answered most of your questions. Like Yuri said, if you've got questions we didn't answer, you can either email me and I'll try to get them answered. Yuri's email link in the chat there. Good luck with all your electrification projects at home. And I'd like to remind everyone, maybe you're already sold on this. You probably know somebody who's not. So hopefully, if nothing else, this will give you more confidence to talk to your friends and family about how good electric tools are and how important it is that we move away from these really polluting gas-powered tools. All right. Thanks, everybody, and hope to see you at one of our upcoming webinars soon. Bye-bye.